She's got swelling, and swelling typically indicates what? Well, it's fluid buildup. So if it's cold and it's not moving and it's stagnant, the answer is yes. But if it's hot and it's acute and it's burning and it feels, no, don't use it. But in her case, that could be used. So things like... Okay, who wants to learn about acupuncture? Everybody's got their hand raised. Excellent. Okay, now, what we're going to talk about, first of all, is who thinks they know what acupuncture is? Yes.
It's something it can help relieve stress and stuff.
Good. It's a therapy. And do you know how it works? Does anybody here have any idea? Same? Yes?
Pressing on pressure points.
Okay, good. There are points on your body that we can access. This is my little guy. I've used him so much his arm comes off sometimes. Anyway, all these lines here are what we call meridians. They're like roads. And all these little dots on here are like special places. They're like cities. And you can have areas that you can access. Let's say if you have a headache, I can find a spot on your foot that corresponds with your head. Now, does anybody find that a little bit unusual? You think that's a little unusual, right? You say, well, I've got a headache. Why don't you just put a needle in my head?
Oh!
That was your first thought, right? So the reason is because we have reflections or areas of our body that pertain to other parts of our body. I'll elaborate for you. Your ear, everybody take a look at this ear, all right? What's that part of my ear called?
Lobe.
Earlobe, right? If I was a girl, I might get a earring in, right, for decoration. But so you know that earlobe is, in Chinese medicine, covers the whole face. And then if you look at it on this part of the ear, it's called the antihelix. This is your spine. And this upper part where the hole is at, that's where the heart is, just outside the hole. And the lungs are right next to it. And over here is where the liver is. And then the stomach. Shall we go through a little anatomy? The spine bones. Okay. Now, at each space on the spine, there's going to be an organ associated with each one of those bones. Is that like totally cool? T3, for example, lungs. T3 is this part of your back. So that bone corresponds directly with your breathing. So would it be logical to assume that if I took this needle and I was to stimulate that part of his back, that I would get some response in the lung? How does that sound to you? Does that sound like that would be logical that could happen?
Yeah.
Well, that's part of how acupuncture works. Okay, we've got three parts to that. The reason I wanted you to understand that is because these organs are reflected in the ear. Every one of them. Every bone in your body is reflected in the ear. All the parts of your central nervous system, your head. So we can stimulate these parts of your body to do what? Take away headaches, for example. We could do other things like calm you down or help with addictions. Have you ever heard of people that have addictions, like they drink too much or they smoke too much or something? Well, we use these points in Chinese medicine that help us resolve those problems. Sound pretty fascinating so far? All that by doing just a tiny point. Well, it's not just that simple, because we've got 365 points if I put his arm back. All right? 365 points, and I know them all. In fact, there's over 200 more points. And these points, I can access things like your head from your big toe. Okay? So, now that I told you how a little bit of acupuncture works, I'm going to give you a quick idea of just why it works. If these little pressure points are pressure points, does that mean that they're sensitive?
Yeah.
Some of them are.
Some of them.
Some of them are. Because, like, for example, at the back of the knee, the back of the popliteal fossa, that part of your knee bends right there. But there's a great big nerve that goes through there. Okay? We call it the sciatica. And I can stimulate that nerve through that acupuncture point. Sounds pretty good, huh? Mm-hmm. And I can help treat things where it connects to what? Your back. Okay? That's one of the ways that acupuncture works. It works by a displacement of things that are out of balance in other parts of your body. So, the point with a tiny little needle or a big needle. Okay? And I've even got bigger.
How do you decide which?
A great question.
What?
She's asking the question, how do you determine which needle to use? Let's get some of the audience involved. How would you think? You don't know? What do you think? How would you determine the size?
For how deep the where the pain is?
How deep the pain is? Actually, that's one of the reasons. Very good. Yes.
How bad it is?
How big the problem is, right? So what would be a natural assumption if it's a big problem? Let's say I'm having a real hard time breathing versus just a little cough. Would I go deeper in the body?
No. Yeah.
It's a good question, and it's a very, let's just say, involved question, because the depth of the needle is dependent upon where the point goes in. Let's say it's at a part around the head. You can't go very far in the head, can you? Right?
No,
there's not a lot of room there.
skull.
You hit the skull, right?
So you'll use a little needle, right?
So you'll use that's correct. Or you just don't go in quite as far. And here's something more. At every point of insertion, there's an angle that's more beneficial than another angle, like perpendicular or subcutaneous. So each one of these points has a different anatomical characteristic.
So you mean what it? So
Well,
you
it's just like feels like a point going through.
Feels like a needle.
Yeah.
Feels like a sharp. So she's identifying a characteristic that when the pain is sharp, I'm going to give you guys a little anatomy lesson. When it's more sharp, yay. When it's more sharp, that means it's more of a nerve. Okay. When it's more dull, that tends to be more muscular. When it's restrictive or you can't move it as much, that could be both muscle and tendon together or ligament. So let's find out where the pain is, okay? Now, I don't use this very often. I use it maybe once a month. Very rarely. But I'm going to do this because it'll give you a good idea of how pain is located, okay? So this is the ground, so you can hold that for me, KJ. And we're going to do this just as a location. Did everybody hear that in the chirper?
Yeah.
So we're going to locate, she said, at the back of the skull, at the occiput, all right? So that's this region right here. Now, there's an acupuncture point that's right in this little area here, so I'm going to test that first. So let's see how she feels there. Pretty good, huh? Right? So if I just went, that's the trajectory of the nerve. So she's got some pain here, that's why it's chirping, but when I go here, I got a lot of pain. Okay? That's what I found. So I'm going to do some acupuncture for that. Now, everybody understand how that works?
No.
Part of the meridian to her neck, okay? But let's say this is a needle for a moment. When it breaks into the skin, it goes into the skin, creates what's called a micro tear. A tiny little tear. And it's picked up by what part of your body?
Brain.
The brain. Right. And it's picked up at that local spot. So the nerves pick it up, and the brain picks it up, and then it sends a signal that there's been an injury there. There's something going on there. So that trains the body to do what? Focus the energy. Okay? And acupuncture is about focusing energy. It moves energy if you want it to. It can speed it up, it can slow it down. It can make it where you can disperse things, or you can make things stronger. You can make it so that the needle is going to get warm, like I'm going to be doing here, okay? Or I could turn it and make more stimulation out of it. All depending on what I am trying to achieve. And that's what takes years of practice and understanding. Now, the Chinese have been doing this for guess how long?
Over 1 million years. I don't know. 20,000? 500 to 800 years?
They were doing it that far back, but the number, yes. How long?
100 years?
100 years? They were doing it that far back too. They actually went back as far as 2,400 years. And maybe even longer than that. So what we're talking about is an art form that's been used for a long time because it works. Would they do something that doesn't work? You know what they started out using? They didn't have these really nice needles back there in China. You know what they started using?
Pine needles?
Bamboo.
Bamboo slivers. That's correct. And needles, pine needles, but not so much that. It was more the bamboo slivers. At the top of your head, what kind of stimulation would you think I would give this patient if she's in a lot of pain? A lot of stimulation or a little stimulation?
A lot.
A lot of stimulation? Okay. To a point. You don't want to hurt her, but you want to get it so she feels it. And now there are techniques where you try to do it where you don't get them to feel anything. Not even knowing that the needle went in. So there's differences in technique. In this case, what I'm going to look for is tongue. And I'm going to ask her, do you feel that? Do you feel it?
A little bit.
A little bit?
But it doesn't hurt.
But it doesn't hurt.
I just feel the sensation of pressure.
Got it. Now, do you see what I'm doing here? I'm lifting it and I'm turning it. That adds stimulation. Do you understand that? So tell me now when you feel more, okay?
I feel more.
Feel more. Okay, I did it a little bit more aggressively, meaning that I wanted a little more stimulation. Okay, now this one is going to be at the neck. You tell me when you feel it.
Okay, I can start to.
Did you feel that? Okay. And I heated up Li4. Feel that? Usually that one's an easy one.
Yeah.
Got it?
My finger twitched inside.
That's a nerve bundle. Now, each one of these points have names to them. Okay? This one's called Hagu, or open gate. There's characteristics, you know. So the Chinese gave names for the things that they did. Isn't that neat? Like, for example, if I wanted to open the gate or open the upper gate for her, I could do that by opening the face. And I'm doing that by opening this side of her body. Okay? And if she came to me and said, well, Dr. Dean, I'm in a lot of pain. Okay? And I just did something and I injured myself. You have to realize that the swelling that you can have with an injury like you just had it 5 minutes ago, that's the body, its response to heal. Okay? So if I'm creating a tiny little swelling, tiny little swelling, what part of the body does that stimulate? The brain. And the brain stimulates what part of the body? To heal the nerves. And what else does it do? What it'll do is it'll stimulate the immune system. I haven't talked about that. And the immune system releases things like histamine. Okay? Everybody here sneeze in the springtime? Right? Now, what else can you imagine that if Jean had come to me, she had neck pain? Do you think that would affect her sleeping?
Yes.
How about her sitting in a chair for a long time at the computer? So you think I'd have something to talk to her about that?
Yes.
Tell me about your daily routine. Maybe I can find something out about it